This is the Decarbonization Disruptors podcast. I am your host, Matthew Cohen. This is episode 7 of our podcast, and I am very privileged to introduce Al Subbloie, founder and CEO of Budderfly. Budderfly is an organization focused on a mission to transform energy usage that focuses on reducing waste and creating a healthier planet by using their unique energy as a service solution. Al, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Matthew. Look forward to the discussion.
Yeah, I'm really excited that you decided to come on here. We have worked with Budderfly previously, so had a great experience there. Candidates that we placed are doing well and enjoyed that time working with you. And so excited to have you here to kind of share more with our audience about what Budderfly is doing. I wanted to get into your background first because you certainly didn't come from the industry to start. I know you had a career in telecom prior to joining and starting Budderfly. So I wanted to learn more about kind of that transition for you and how you kind of came to this industry, after a career in telecom.
No, I appreciate the question and the perspective. I don't view that I had a career in telecom. Really have probably a lengthy career in software and technology, and applying that to different industries and markets. I actually enjoy entering new industries. I find that the domain expertise you can gain by reading a lot and having a fresh perspective, and then being able to apply technology in unique ways for better outcomes is a distinct advantage. I have a background in software technology in more complex environments like telecom and energy.
Great. And I read an article in the Hartford Business Journal a little while ago, and it discussed your leadership style as a lead from the front leadership. And I want to learn more about that, especially how it relates to how you lead a group as complex as Budderfly with all the different characteristics and needs that your customers have. How do you use that lead from the front style in that way?
Yeah, so, building a company is not easy, Matthew. And when you look at the track record of a lot of people, it's not all that high, and there's reasons for that. I'm a big believer in starting at the core of the value proposition for the customer. And because that's where the magic happens of a model that either works or doesn't work. And the repeatability of the value to the customer is what entrepreneurs often search for. You can think of that idea on a blank whiteboard, or you can get out there and meet with customers and see it for yourself and shape it. And it's one of the things that I did early on at Budderfly and my last companies is at least 30 to 50 customer meetings to be out there and listen to the challenges that a customer has, and then apply your solution and then how they react to that solution for their benefit. It really is just blocking and tackling. And I'm a firm believer, even as our company has gotten larger, I literally got off a call before this call with a potential large customer, and the CEO and CFO were on the call, and we talked about their business, the value proposition, how our solution fits. If I don't have an intimate view of that, how do I lead the company at any phase of the business? So that lead from the front mentality, I think, has a lot to do with being engaged with customers, with prospects, with employees. One added piece of it, and over the years I've learned, within your own company, we have a little under 400 people now. We do a call every 6 weeks, and a whole company, pretty much state of the union. And mostly from the hip, and I'm an open book on all the things that we have going on. It can last upwards of an hour and a half, and we cover everything. We cover our metrics, our performance, our challenges. We cover customers, we cover market trends, dynamics. I'm just a big believer in staying tight when you're growing like we are, and you're going to have what I call a championship team that could win the championship. You really have to be good at executing, and a good leader is going to know their business really well. So that philosophically is so important. And frankly, that's what causes me to love what I do every day.
Very cool. I want to talk more about Budderfly and the solution that you mentioned, because I've been in the industry long enough to, in the early days of my career, worked with a lot of ESCOs and guaranteed performance contracts and been in that world for a long time. And I know that you have a unique model when it comes to energy as a service. So I want to talk about how your energy as a service model differs from the kind of the traditional guaranteed energy savings model that we've seen for decades now.
So just let me be clear. We created our model on a whiteboard early on. And one of the segments that we studied was the ESCO segment. I'm pretty visceral in my thinking. And when I saw the size of the agreement on the table that an ESCO had that I was about ready to read and look at, and it was an inch or two thick, I already started to be a little depressed on what it represented. And I said to myself, if that's the size of an agreement that has to define the trade of risk and value, and it's that long, you're talking a 2-year sales cycle at minimum, plus everybody walking away not really ever being sure or remembering who exactly has to do what. And if you have to fight that hard to get it done, I said, well, that's a problem. I said, the world's going to end before we fix this problem at the speed at which that adoption happens. If you couple that with the simplicity of what we actually do, all we're really trying to do is deliver an optimal outcome on the use of energy in a single facility over and over and over again. And it's not that complicated. You have to either replace a bunch of things that are not efficient and are old, put in better controls and connectivity to that location to be able to manage and monitor effectively, right? And be able to understand the data, and as it progresses, how you're actually doing against what you thought you would do to begin with. It is that simple. So I started with the end in mind, and I decided at that time that we would deliver the best outcome to the customer. And then we would be responsible for all the enabling things you have to do to deliver that outcome. And as opposed to being in the business of simply selling the enablers. And what you have in the market right now, Matthew, is you have the entire industry is a bunch of companies that sell a portion of the enablers to get to a better outcome, which leaves the responsibility of integration in the customer's hands, who, by the way, is not in the business of managing energy. Doesn't make any sense. So we created a unique outsourcing model to make it really simple for the customer, including spending the money in the capital. Now, that happens to be the commodity of what we deliver. But more importantly, we deliver managing the whole thing to a better outcome. They end up with financial benefit in their pocket and a whole lot of free upgrades. And we end up with the job of managing that to a better outcome. And we bear the risk whether we can make money at that or not. And that's the way it ought to be if we're experts in our marketplace. So that's what we did. We invented that back in 2017 and 18. And we've just been on a tear really ever since. And we'll continue to do that over the next 5 years.
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective. And yeah, I was alluding to, and you mentioned it. I mean, when I used to talk to ESCO salespeople or engineers, and they were talking about they're on a 30-year contract with a school system or a government facility. It's just a crazy amount of time. And I imagine it's probably hard to get understanding of immediate metrics that can come back from a contract like that. So what I'm curious about is what your customers are gravitating towards when it comes to solutions. I imagine it's all of the above in some cases, but is it more, the monitoring and the real-time data? Is it the utility billing management, actual replacement of HVAC systems? Is it always an all-encompassing solution, or are people gravitating towards different things that'll help them?
Yeah, and you said it well. It depends on the customer. But Matthew, if you're going to go after a market, you have to create a dynamic model that appeals to multiple drivers for a customer, because you're going to meet a CFO who cares about the money. You're going to meet another CFO who wants to be popular at the cocktail party and to be able to say that I'm saving the world. You might have a brand owner who owns a brand who does care about the optics of the way the market views the brand. And whether that's a selfish interest because they'll get more business or they truly do care, we had to create a model that did all the above. And we do all the above. And if you look at our model, we've aligned perfectly the investment of capital to saving the environment. but we've also maximized the profit opportunity for the customer and ourselves to achieve a better capital outcome. And we did it without relying on the government for incentives or the utilities because, those guys will take a long time to figure that out very often. And those things can come and go. So our reliance on it, I minimized it on purpose because I felt the model needed to speak for itself. The good news, and we've done this now 6,000 times, is when you take our model and apply it, this is an IRR that makes sense from a capitalistic perspective, and it exactly reduces carbon at the same level of degree as the amount of money being saved. So you ask yourself the question, why doesn't the whole world just do this? And we're building a business to be able to handle that type of scale. So we will meet people that really care about the environment. We'll meet people that'll admit they don't, that they just care about profit-based outcomes. And we say to them, listen, at the end of the day, they all come equally in our business model. That's the beauty of it. And we measure everything. We're incredibly analytical about the money part and the carbon part. It's really important to what we do to the world. Now, our entire company happens to care. We actually do care. And we've applied capital in a way that no company in this entire planet right now has built a model like ours, which, by the way, frankly, surprises me for what it's worth. But here we are, right? We've gotten quite large, way ahead of the pack in what we're doing. But we're going to continue to focus on both current segments that we address and future segments moving forward.
And I wanted to ask you about one particular area of business, which is, I know you do a lot in the restaurant space. And I know that's not your only market, but it's a large one of what you do. And I know that the restaurant market right now for owners and operators is tough. I mean, they have very much rising operational labor costs, obviously somewhat of a depressed consumer as of late. Even with the great solution that you have, how are you convincing them to make these capital investments, even with no upfront costs, when there's so much coming at them right now? What's that pitch look like? What are you seeing from them, and how are you getting over some of those headwinds that they're seeing right now?
So, Matthew, again, back to the lead from the front. When you understand our value prop, and I do intimately, as you can guess, and I continue to do customer prospect meetings, there are just a huge number of benefits in it. The most important is that it's simple, it's easy to adopt. And think about it, we handle all the heavy lifting to get the job done. So as a restaurant owner who is probably trying to keep their restaurant cool in one of the toughest heat waves we've had this summer throughout the whole country, and you've got HVAC units going down and lights that may go out that need to be dealt with, or refrigeration temperatures that are a little above norm, you're sitting here with an emergency in front of you, and we become almost like lightning. We run in and we could be a solution to those immediate problems. So you might have someone who the commodity side of what we do might be the most attractive. You've got others that look at it and say, energy is the third, fourth largest expense on my P&L. I know it's a mess. I don't know where to start, where to end. This is an expert who will come in, and I don't even need a budget approval to work with these guys. And if I look at their model, it's a long-term relationship. I get it, but they're invested. I mean, they're investing in my company, and they're willing to. And so easily and quickly, I like that. I can't get that anywhere else. And as a restaurant owner or a fitness owner, you could be a healthcare provider, because we work in a number of different segments. You're focused on what you're trying to do in the domain that you're in. You're not worrying right now about the use of energy. You are worrying about making sure your operation is comfortable for your employees and your customers. And that's where we come in. And we swoop right in with teams of people. We swoop in with equipment. And we're about the fastest upgrade to that infrastructure that you're going to find right now. And everybody wins. Everybody wins. And, they win on our investment and our expertise and our technology and capability and our good people.
I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned something earlier about, why doesn't everyone in the world do this, right? And I know that while the energy services market is really growing quite a bit, there's still a lot of room out there for more companies to take advantage of the different technologies that are out there. And so what can we do as an industry to make energy efficiency, building efficiency in the decarbonization movement more prevalent? Is it more government policies regarding, the where you have to start changing out equipment or meeting certain standards? Is it more PE money dedicated to building decarbonization? What can we do to show that this is really a solid solution for decarbonization that can really help the planet and also obviously the businesses themselves?
Like every other lightning rod for an industry, I look at Elon Musk, who decided he's going to build an electric car before they were in vogue. But you had to do that at the time to get to a point where it became popular. Now, maybe not unlike Steve Jobs as well with the iPhone, right? Or the iPad. I remember that everybody said it's a dumb looking big iPhone. It's not going to go anywhere. So you do need some visionaries out there. I'd say we were probably that in the space. And now that we've gotten big, I think the best thing that could happen, and our marketing team's done a great job spreading the news, is the success of the model. But Budderfly is a good example of that model. Makes a lot of sense where the rest of the world could change the way they view this from what I call a silo-driven mentality to an outcome-driven mentality. And I'm here to share with you there's a capitalistic return to be made to essentially save the world, right? If you can make money to save the world, that's a different view than the government has to spend money to convince people to do it. It's a very different way of thinking. So as a private company, it's probably important that we get the message out there. We're already way in the lead to the market. We're going to be a little under 2 billion by 2029 is our run rate and ramp right now in revenue.
Wow.
And that's not insignificant in the energy space. If we're ramping at that level, obviously it's a model that's standing the test of time and makes sense. We're not in what I call wartime thinking, wartime being we're going to attack this aggressively as a country. We create what I call passive incentives, and we still have those old 2-inch thick contract models that take 2 years for anybody to do anything. We have to change our way of thinking about it, be more nimble the way that Budderfly has created a model to attack that.
And given that growth and where you want to go as a company, I wanted to ask you a hiring question because that's the world that I live in. I saw a press release recently about the idea that you're using trade schools to leverage them to bring talent into your business for, I imagine, HVAC solutions, electrical. How is that going? And kind of what do you need to be doing and what can the industry be doing to bring more of those technical skills into building efficiency so we can keep up with demand?
So it starts with defining the problem, right? As we scaled so quickly, and we're aiming for near, 2,000 times, call it 3-4 HVAC units each. You're talking 4,000 to 6,000 installations this year in the next roughly 12 months, and we outsource a good portion of that. We do insource some of it. We learned that the amount of available talent, by the way, that's available talent with expertise in this high efficiency world that we're entering. And while it doesn't take a tremendous amount to train people to do that, it does take some effort. Otherwise, you don't end up with a quality installation. So we've obviously learned a bunch of that in the last roughly 18 months to 2 years. And we've seen a shortage of resource. And by the way, the pay scales are pretty exciting for some of these folks. So we decided to go to the trade schools and say, let's kind of grow up youth a little bit on the new way of thinking, and let's try to cross-train the heck out of the new way to deliver better energy outcomes. But we still need very experienced expertise. So we're both hiring, training our outsourced partners, and we've gone to a lot of technical schools, and we've already begun hiring quite a few folks who, by the way, just have a great philosophical attitude towards what we're trying to accomplish. And it's more than a technical job. If you think about, we're literally developing better energy outcomes for our customers, and they're in there getting it done. And we send that message and vision to them, which they really, really do appreciate. I'd say we have an unlimited ability to be able to ramp and hire that, but the friction is going to be in training, quality assurance, and all those systems that we're building to support that community.
As you grow, I'm curious to get your thoughts on kind of what's next on the technology front for building efficiency and decarbonization. I mean, all the things that you're doing now with utility billing management and monitoring, HVAC systems, what's on the horizon for technology that you think you'll be able to leverage for your customers?
I will summarize it to a couple. I won't get into gory detail. The heat pump initiative in this country, which is an electrification strategy for obvious reasons to essentially support the source of power shift to renewables, right? From a local fossil fuel burning area, is one that we are knee deep in right now. And there's not a ton of experience that we're finding, especially in the segments that we serve, in making those work in these high intense environments. And they do involve, for example, for us, it's spread to being able to fix and replace the way that air gets managed in these environments. So then it begins to extend and also become fixing, thermosensitive hoods, as an example, or makeup air units. And we're in heavy pilot testing right now with all this. We're seeing reductions in the 60, 70% energy use, but you got to get it right, especially in the intensity of temperatures that we're beginning to see in the summer months and frankly, the winter months. The bell curve of performance on these heat pumps, we're pushing the limits a little bit on those edges. So that's one to keep a close eye on. The other one is VPP, virtual power plant technologies. We recently did an acquisition of a software product. We're beginning to do a pilot on storage where we're going to put flexible capacity storage in our customers behind the meter, which will serve them for reliability and for peak shaving, but will also be available capacity for utilities that are running into trouble right now on capacity. And we're going to do that again on our expense and also have the customer get benefit from it. So our adoption of VPP should be quicker than almost anyone else in the market. And by doing acquisitions in software technology, we're able to handle that scale with an infrastructure that nobody has on our unique model, giving us the ability to adopt that because we have such influence in how that facility can actually manage energy moving forward for everyone's benefit. So the combination of the model, strategic acquisitions, technology, you're going to see that demand side utility concept from us go up pretty dramatically in the next 12 months.
And I go off from that. How are you leveraging your relationship with utilities themselves to get their buy-in to do this work? I mean, are they on board? Are they excited? What's your relationship with them like to be able to leverage a lot of this technology?
Well, we're changing their strategy quickly. A lot of them are testing storage as a flexible capacity strategy, but for them to test it, they have to go get budget approval, which requires PUC and all that stuff that happens with long sales cycles. We walk in and we say, well, wait a minute, we already have the locations in your backyard. And oh, by the way, we'll invest and we'll pay for all that. Sometimes their head shakes a little bit and they're, really? Is that simple? Now, at the end of the day, there needs to be an economic model that drives from this on what the value, but a lot of people believe this is a replacer for peaker plants. You've got outages that are happening more in our society now than ever before. There's no doubt storage and renewables is going to be done correctly, is going to be a solution to these problems. And we're going to see ourselves in the lead on that in the next, call it 12 to 24 months.
Very cool. Well, look, it all sounds exciting. I hear the passion that you have for the work that you do, and I think that's much needed in the decarbonization space. And I think the growth that you have is amazing, and I think it'll only get better. And I'm excited to see what you do in the future. So I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Anything else you want to add about what's going on with Budderfly today, upcoming, that our audience should get excited about?
We're having a great year and continue to see explosive growth and huge scale rollouts of high efficiency outcomes for our customers. But it's an exciting time. And Matthew, we appreciate the partnership. I've also appreciated the dialogue. Look forward to staying in touch with you and hopefully some of the audience here.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll make sure we put Budderfly's website link at the description below. So again, Al Subbloie, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. This is the Decarbonization Disruptors podcast, and we will see you next time.